Okay, one more thing I wanted to touch base with you on because I was writing a bunch of draft primers for various sites in the past week, and there is one major change ahead of the 2025 cycle, Jeremy, that I want to get your take on because you're a little bit more of a draft history buff than I am. And you, I think, have been covering the draft more through more kind of iterations and changes. The big change ahead of 2025 is the draft is transitioning from a 3-day event to a 2-day event. So what it's going to look like now is all of the picks through the end of round 3 are going to be on day 1. That's going to take us through around 100 picks instead of last year what was around 75 picks on day 1, and then you've got rounds 4 through 20 on day 2 of the draft. And a couple of folks have asked me, so I was curious for your take on this. What do you think the major impact of that shift is for teams in the draft, kind of transitioning from a 3-day deal to a 2-day event? Do you think that makes it more challenging? What do you think teams are going to be dealing with or kind of marinating on as they're approaching July this year with a different format?
Yeah, so I mean, it seems crazy when you're like, oh, so now they're, instead of doing 2 rounds and 8 rounds and 10 rounds, they're going to do 3 rounds and then 17 rounds. And it's like, how in the world are you going to do 17 rounds in a day? But not that long ago, they did rounds 21 through 40 in one day. And it was a long day. And I would guess that this is probably the preference. And I could be way off, but I just feel like for people in the draft room when you're doing it, to then take a break, and it's not. I feel like it would maybe be different if you could trade picks and look at your board. How do we feel? But it's the biggest change probably is like trying to re-engage with the guys that's bonus numbers higher, and then trying to figure out if that's someone that you could pick on day 3. And now it's going to be like the middle of day 2. However, the counterpoint would be those are the guys that are typically falling out of the top 3 rounds.
Yep.
So if you're going to engage with them in between day 1 and day 2 as a possible day 2 pick, it's just when do you want to take them on day 2? Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I don't think it'll be. It's not like it's going to be this huge dramatic change, because that change happened when they went from 40 rounds to 20, and also they've had practice in firing off picks. I actually, as a fan of the draft, will prefer this 2-day setting.
I'll let you know after we're done like live streaming on day 2, depending on the level of tiredness, how I feel about it.
Well, it'll be tiring, but it's going to be tiring regardless.
Yeah, this is true.